I never thought it would end like this. It was an ordinary Tuesday when I came home. I turned the key in the lock and opened the door as usual, without a thought that everything behind that door would change. She wasn't there, which wasn't unusual. She often had her own things to do. But that evening, something felt off, something indescribable. Maybe it was the empty scent in the apartment, as if someone else had entered the space. I walked into our bedroom, and then I saw it. The phone, its screen showing a message from a number I didn't recognize. "I'm sorry it had to be this way, but I can't live without you anymore." I knew immediately it was about her. I stared at the phone, feeling the world momentarily stand still. Every breath grew heavier, every heartbeat louder. It wasn't shock, it was more like a bitter, cold taste of confirmation. I sat on the bed and took a deep breath, while my mind raced. How long had this been going on? How many times had I suspected, but refused to acknowledge it? Thoughts shot through my head, a relentless storm of anger and sorrow. Instead of confronting her immediately, I stood up and left. I knew where she was. A part of me had always known, but I had deceived myself. When I arrived at the restaurant where she was with him, I stayed in the car. I watched them through the window. She was laughing. She looked so happy. I wanted to call her, shout at her, confront her. But I stayed calm. There was no fury rising inside me, it was something else, a cold, clear feeling that washed over me. I knew what I had to do. In the following days, I continued to watch her without her knowing. I was careful, calculating. All her secrets, her excuses, everything she had told me, came crashing down like a house of cards. I didn't just let it be. I knew she'd be going to a business meeting the next day, so I followed her. By this point, I was no longer the man who had done everything for her. I was the man who understood the game. She didn't notice me until it was too late. When she stood in front of me, the truth in her eyes, something inside her broke. The look she gave me wasn't one of a woman confident in her actions. It was the look of someone desperate, knowing she had lost everything. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't reply. Words were no longer necessary. Her apology had become meaningless, an empty sound in the air. She broke down in front of me. The woman who had betrayed me, the woman who had told so many lies, the woman I once loved, now lay crying before me. I looked at her, but my eyes remained cold. She had taken everything from me, the love, the trust, the time. And yet, she didn't understand one thing: the power of revenge wasn't in punishment, but in letting go. I knew I could finally let her go. "You've destroyed everything," I said, with no trace of pity in my voice. "And now you'll have to live with the wreckage." And as I turned away, I left her standing there in a moment of absolute despair.